During World War II, the United States captured the island of Saipan. The Japanese ordered all the inhabitants of that island to kill themselves by jumping off a cliff. Hundreds of feet below that cliff was jagged rocks as the water hit the shore. Very few people would survive a fall from that cliff. American translators yelled through bullhorns that if those on the cliff would come to the U.S. troops, they would be spared. 3 words were yelled over and over: come and live. Come and live. Come and live. A few did come, but most hurled their children over the cliff and jumped in after them. There are people today who respond the same way to the gospel of Jesus Christ when he says, "Come to me." Today's gospel passage really speaks to us because there are so many people who are weary. One translation of today's gospel, instead of burden, is said weary. And so I like that word. People are weary. They're weary not just in our country, but this weariness spreads across the globe. Let's begin by looking at verse 28, where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary." The word weary is from Greek, and it translates as to work hard, to labor, to toil. Those are kind of the understandings I think most of us would have when we hear the word weary. But if you keep reading in the translations, it gets more interesting. Because one of the definitions of the word weary is to be worn out, to have had enough. Have you had enough? Okay. Are you weary of working and getting nowhere? Of being sick and in pain and getting no relief? Are you weary of all the negativity and discord that's present in our country today? Are you weary, worn out, had enough of COVID-19, and you want your life back? What's the answer to this weariness? Well, Matthew continues in verse 28, and he says, "I will give you rest." So come to me, Jesus says, and I will give you rest. The answer to our weariness, then, is to come to Jesus and receive this rest. Now, again, there are 2 words in the Greek for the word rest. The first one is kind of what you'd expect. It means a pause or a cessation of labor, kind of a break, right? That's not the word that's used in verse 28. The Greek word used in verse 28, that means to experience a type of heaven, a type of blissfulness, not just a cessation of what wearies us, but a taste of paradise. This is the type of rest that Matthew says Jesus offers us. Clearly, the kind of rest that Jesus offers us is not the kind of rest the world offers us. Jesus goes on in verse 29 to verse 30 to explain to his followers and for us what this rest looks like. In these verses, Jesus speaks of his yoke. In the time of Jesus, a yoke was a wooden device that farmers used to link 2 animals of burden to a plow the fields, 2 oxen most often. And what they would always try to do is take one oxen who was well experienced and strong and knew how to do this and pair it up with a more immature, less experienced oxen. A yoke is meant to bind the 2 together. The strength of the one helps the weakness of the other. We are called to be yoked to Jesus. Us and our weakness and sin paired to Jesus and his strength, his power, and his glory. Now, I'm really going to date myself by this. When I was a teenager, there was a secular song. I know a lot of people know you can never have secular songs in church, but this has meaning. When I was 17 years old, 18, this song came out, and instantly I associated it with Jesus. It wasn't like the person singing it was singing of one human being to another. I really felt it was Jesus singing to me. It was a time in my life, my first year in the seminary. It was a horribly difficult year for me. My vocation was very precarious at that time. And I used this song over and over and over to take comfort from it. And what is that song? Well, it's Lean on Me. In 1972, Bill Withers wrote the song and he recorded it. And I think it really describes the very essence of today's message. Here's some of the lyrics of that song. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. But if we're wise, we always know that there's going to be a tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. The song ends with, if there's a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call on me. That's exactly what Jesus is saying here in today's gospel. We can lean on Jesus when we're not strong. He's our friend, and with him, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Jesus bids us, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Are you weary of something? Then you don't have to let it take you down. Respond to the Lord's call. Draw near to Jesus. He will ease your burden. He will help you get through whatever it is you're going through. You don't have to jump off the edge. The Lord is calling you. All you have to do is say, here I am, Lord. Let the church say,